One of the really advantages to being at Crippled Children's Hospital and School, or CRIPS as those on the inside called it, was that I got to be in Boy Scouts. And that wasn't something that would have probably happened had I been gone to public school and remained in Scotland. We did many of the same things that other people did in Boy Scouts. We went camping and had to set up our own tents, do the cooking and stuff. One of the times, I remember my first camp out, it was at Lake Brant up by Chester, South Dakota, and a completely unimproved camping area. There wasn't even an outhouse, wasn't anything, just a place to have a fire and set up our tents. And so that's what we did. And on that first time, I was just a tenderfoot scout, and came upon us, me and my friend Elvis, to make breakfast that morning. And we had to plan the menu, and it was interesting. We ended up with Wheaties and sausage links, which was, kind of an interesting combination. And that morning when we got up and got the fire started, and then it started pouring rain, we sat out there in the pouring rain making sausages and trying to eat our Wheaties, where the milk was mostly water, rainwater. Actually worked out pretty well. The sausages cooked up pretty good. We're in kind of a big cast iron frying pan, and that the nice thing about that is it kind of covered the area where the fire was underneath, so it actually worked pretty well, except for they were kind of more boiled than fried in kind of a way, because there was no lid for the fry pan and things like that. We went camping a couple times down by Lewis and Clark Lake, down by Yankton, South Dakota, at the Boy Scout camp down there. That was a little bit better because it was an improved camping area, and they did have outhouses and had faucets for water and stuff like that, a hydrant for water, I guess. And one of the things that happened was we had a scout leader who came from New York, actually, the Bronx, Brooklyn, I guess it was, Henry. And he decided we were going to have a hike, and to have a hike, which we needed for our merit badges, we decided to hike to the Western Mall in Sioux Falls, which is directly south of the school, Crippled Children's Hospital and School, the school building, roughly a couple miles south of there if you go as the crow flies, and that's kind of how we went. A lot of up and down hills, which in a wheelchair going downhill is fairly fun, except for you can't just let it go. You have to control it and keep it from going too fast, because sidewalks aren't all that forgiving in many ways. Going uphill can be a lot of work, and it was. And on the way there, those like me that were a little bit faster in a wheelchair took off and got up top the hills and then went down, and got there quite a bit before the other kids showed up at 41st Street, is where we had to wait to cross the 41st Street, which is a fairly busy street on a Saturday morning. And a couple of the kids were pretty slow, and on the way back, the scout leader told us that we had to stop where he could see us. So what we did is we went up the hill, and then and then went down and sat down at the bottom of the hill, waiting until he crested the hill, and then we started back up the other side. And it was kind of an interesting thing. Took quite a bit longer coming back than it did going there. And I have to say that we were all pretty beat, but it really was a good experience, and at least as much work as anybody would have been hiking out in the wild, or not in the wild, but out in the country someplace. Walking, the amount of work that we had to put forth to push our wheelchairs through that. And so I always think of that when we have the mall walk that Lifescape now has as a fundraiser, and I think of my mall walk, which was quite a bit different than that.